Danvers Conservation Commission meeting for November the 9th, 2023. We operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaws, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After each applicant presents his or her request and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address before you speak. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all other meeting attendees. This includes members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, property owners, and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project and only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction over matters such as noise or traffic. All projects not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with the other appropriate boards. Our first order of business is a roll call. Peter Wilson is present. Vanessa Curran.
Present.
Jonathan Garies.
Present.
Mary Haight. Ann McGill.
Here.
And Michael Splain.
Yeah.
Before we move to the agenda, one slight change tonight. Item number 4, the notice of intent for 107R Elliott Street will be moved until after item 6 because Mr. Garies needs to recuse himself. So let's get started. The first order of business is certificate of compliance for 200 North Street, DEP file number 14-1377. The applicant is North Street Associates. Is there anyone here representing the applicant?
Yes, Mary's here online. Mary, if you can hear us, you're free to take over.
Thanks very much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much. We are just requesting a certificate of compliance for this project that was completed in 2022 for bank stabilization along Nichols Brook at 200 North Street, which is the
Oh my gosh.
mobile park at that location, and all the work was completed. I did a site inspection with Georgia, and everything looked great. Sumco Eco Contracting did the work, the stabilization work, and installed the riprap stone revetment, and the site is very stable now. They reseeded, because some of the work was done during a season that had considerable drought, unlike this past season. So some of the staging areas had to be reseeded again this fall, which was done, and the work is complete and looks good.
Okay, thanks. And I believe, Georgia, you've been out to inspect the site?
Yes, like Mary said, I met with her in September, and then I also have gone by myself. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday of this week.
And everything was done too?
Yeah, everything looks great.
Okay, I'll just turn it over to the members of the board with any questions or comments. So, Mike, any questions?
Yeah, well, I recall this was an erosion issue. The bank's been stabilized and seeded,
Yes.
so I have no questions beyond that.
Jonathan, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Vanessa, any comments?
No questions.
Ann, any questions?
No.
Okay, someone can make a motion or issue an order of compliance, a certificate of compliance?
All right, I'll move we issue a certificate of compliance for 200 North Street, DEP, file number 14-1377.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you very much.
Is a certificate of compliance.
Thank you, Mary.
For 23R Doty Avenue, DEP file number 14-1155. The applicant is Deborah Lewis. And from what I understand, the project has been done according to plan? Yes. And Georgia, you've been out to inspect the site?
Yeah, Deborah, I'm sorry. Do you mind just going up to the podium and saying your name? Sorry. And it's all right, guys. Don't worry.
Say your name.
Oh, Deborah Lewis,
And you are
23
the-
Doty Ave.
The homeowner. Okay. Okay, thanks. And Georgia, you've been out there to inspect the site?
Yes, I met that gentleman on site Monday or Tuesday of this week. I forget what day. Tuesday. Yep, everything looks great. The as-built foundation plan, everything matches. I mean, it's been more than 10 years now. Everything's well established, but everything looks great.
Okay. good. Any questions? Mike, we'll start with you.
No questions, thank you.
Jonathan?
No questions.
Ann, any questions?
No, no, thank you.
Vanessa?
Nope.
Okay, so make a motion then.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 23R Doty Ave, DEP file number 14-1155.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll stay in the neighborhood. Next up is a certificate of compliance for 107 Brad Street Avenue, DEP file number 143-52. Thanks. The applicant is Joseph Skomersky. Is anyone here to represent the applicant?
I'm not seeing Joe here, and I'm not seeing him online. I did send him the agenda and confirm everything, so if he happens to get here, I would say maybe we can address it if he happens to join before the end of the meeting, but for now, I would skip over this item and then,
Yes, we just-
yeah. And we don't need to continue it because it's not a public hearing, so if we just want to,
All right, so we'll just give him a chance to.
yeah.
Staff, question, can we, if he can't make it in, but you're satisfied, can we vote on it anyway?
I wouldn't suggest that. It's always been, we've required someone to be here. It may set a precedent in that,
All right,
I mean, it's a good
People stop
question, and we've, yeah.
okay.
Okay, no, we'll just, hopefully someone, who's his representative?
It's him. It's himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to skip 107R Elliott till the end. So next up is a notice of intent for 152 Endicott Street, DEP file number 14-1402. The applicant has requested a continue
Well, it's not
to our December 14th meeting, so if someone can make a motion to continue, we will do that.
I don't have that.
I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 152 Endicott Street, DEP file number 14-1402 to December 14th.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll see that one, hopefully for the final time, on December 14th. Next up is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 191 Old Burley Street. There is no DEP number, is that correct?
That's correct.
The applicant is Flight Level Aviation. Is someone here representing the applicant?
I am. My name is Peter Ogren, and I'm with Hayes Engineering, and I represent Flight Level Aviation. They have a leasehold interest in a piece of land near this wetland that we've applied for a resource area determination on. It's a wetland line that the commission has seen before. It was flagged sometime back by GZA. We've talked with a consultant that flagged it, and he thinks the wetland line should still be good. But I thought it was a prudent person that we would move forward and get a determination to make sure before we proceed with the planning of some new facilities.
So the original delineation was done when?
I think it was 2016,
I have 2017.
2017,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what, 6+ years.
For some time back, but there's a steep gradient to the wetland, and as I say, we've talked with a consultant from ZGA, and he seems to think that it would be a good line.
Okay, yeah, I think we'd want to see something a little more up to date.
Well, we flagged it on the ground, you can see it.
We can. Did you just reflag what was there, or?
Yeah, we reflagged the line that was flagged at that time. It's a fairly steep gradient down to the wetland.
Yeah.
It's a very
We-
steep gradient.
We
actually.
have had instances where the line moves over time, where you go out and the wetland is not where it used to be, or the measurement.
Well, I
We've
understand
had-
that, and that's why we're here to
Yeah.
get a determination, and you have an opportunity to look at the line, and if there's a flag to be moved, we can move it or whatever, but that's why we're here.
Who would go out, Peter? You would go out, or?
We've talked with a consultant, and he could go out, or with the commissioner. I don't know if, Georgia, if you review wetlands lines, or who does.
I don't have the training for that, so what I would say, Peter, is that typically what the commission would do is require that a peer reviewer be consulted or hired at your expense or the applicant's expense. And so the commission would hire someone to attend that site visit and review those lines with you guys.
Yeah, you had indicated that to us before, and that's fine. I mean, I don't
Okay.
know who you use for a peer reviewer.
That's up to the commission. Again, usually the process is I'll ask 3 quotes. Typically, it's Hancock or Williams and Sprague, someone that's in the area that the commission's familiar with, Bill Manuel. and then we'll get quotes back, and then from there, we'll pick someone and schedule a site visit.
Uh-huh.
If that's what the commission votes on, of course, we'll,
Are there plans that show where this proposed project would take place, or where the wetlands that they want to redelineate are?
So this is not to determine the proposed project, it's just to determine the line.
No, but there
But
is
there
a
are
plan
plans,
that
yeah.
shows those
Plans that
I can
lines.
show
pull
the
it up.
wetlands.
Yeah, there's a plan that shows the wetlands. I thought you said he,
Yeah, look quickly.
yeah, Georgia has it, and she,
yeah.
So, are you looking for a motion to?
We can't do anything.
this is the wetland line that we're seeking to
Okay.
determine, and it's between the taxiway, it's behind the former North Atlantic Air. Flight Level Aviation is the successor to North Atlantic Air. So it's behind their main maintenance terminal, and it's the line that shows there. We're looking to determine the line, and then obviously that determines the buffers and the requirements for compliance with your regulations.
Okay. Any questions? Mike, we can start with you. Any further questions?
No, I just agree that we probably need to get peer review on this because of it's been, what, 6 years? 6 years?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
It's been
that.
6 years, Peter, since the line was established?
Well, yeah, it's 2017, so,
Oh,
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, that's all.
Okay. Jonathan, any questions?
I think my only question would be, is there a plan that shows the existing grades at the site relative to the flagged wetlands?
It shows the what?
The existing grade contours.
I do have a contour plan if that would be of interest, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
We're only looking to determine the line.
The line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
See, that's
reason I
the-
asked is you mentioned that it's a pretty steep
Slope.
gradient,
It's a
so
very steep gradient.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the potential is for that line to actually move, given the steepness of the grades
I don't
there.
think very much, and in fact, if you listen to the Army Corps, these wetlands lines don't move, but that's what the Army Corps says. Takes hundreds of years for them to form. But anyway, it's a steep gradient down. If it would help for me to submit a contour plan, I'm certainly willing to do that.
I don't think it's necessary, just out of curiosity.
Do you have an existing, or do you have a contour plan from 2017 by any chance?
Yes.
I think that would at least be helpful for us to see. So when we go out to the site, we can see how steep, if it's eroded, how much it has eroded, if that incline has changed.
It hasn't eroded, it's a vegetated bank.
Okay, so I think it would be helpful. So if you
Yeah.
want to email that to
The
us.
commission actually has this information.
Who has this information?
The commission does, yeah. They,
Prior
this
file.
is
Yeah,
the
we
same
were-
line
yeah.
that was submitted back to the commission back at that time.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get it out of the basement files.
We can pull that, yeah.
No, I can submit it, I mean, but I'm just saying that
Yeah,
it was submitted previously at that time.
Okay. All set, Jonathan?
Yeah, no more questions.
Ann, any questions?
No, because we've been we were back there a couple, what was it, 2 years ago?
2, 3 years ago, no, we were
Yeah,
on the
we
other
were
side.
back-
We were on the,
The other side? Okay.
we're down by the end of the runway. Vanessa, any questions?
My only question is, so when it was delineated in 2017, was that submitted to us at that time?
Yes.
Was there an ANRAD done then?
No, it was not an NRAD,
What was it under, or how?
no notice of intent.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, so the project, whatever that was proposed under the NOI at that time was completed.
The project did not go forward. And
Okay.
we're looking to go forward with a new project, and it didn't go forward because it wasn't in compliance with some of your regulations, and we want to be sure that we follow your regulations moving forward. And this seemed to be a logical first step.
Okay, gotcha. And I would just note that I'm definitely in favor of the commission hiring a peer reviewer to verify the wetland line.
Now, will Georgia get in touch with me and recommend who
We
the
haven't
peer
voted.
reviews might be?
Sir, we have not voted on yet, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, Vanessa, any other questions?
No.
Is there any public comment? Sir?
Please speak into the mic. I don't think I need one, but that's okay. Gentlemen, my name is Mark Zubarek, and I have been a advocate for the airport and advocate against the airport. The reason we're here today is to reestablish the wetlands boundary. Over the last 6 years, the wetlands have increased in regard to the growth of the materials that are growing in the wet soil and all that. This was filed, like we just said, 6 years ago, and at that time it was filed to be built into the wetlands. And that's why it was withdrawn. So now, by establishing the new wetland boundaries and then establishing the distance that these facilities, these are hangars for airplanes, so jet airplanes, they are in the background noise of the neighborhood on Old Burley Street, and you have a whole list of addresses that are involved in this. So this is the first step, and legally we have to address this because it establishes the distance that these hangars can be built from the wetland boundaries. So the comments are very accurate, and they do rely on the information that was done in the past, but we've had some wet summers. We've had some wet areas that are being included underneath these two hangars. They're talking about two hangars that are going to be built.
Sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves. There's no project that's
I know.
put in front of us.
I'm sorry. That's wetlands delineation is the issue here, and I think we need the contractor or the developer to redefine those because they are old and they need to be redefined. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Sir?
Tony Betancourt, 15 Thorpe Circle, town meeting member, precinct 5. It's in my area. The question I have is not a big deal. I understand we're not going anywhere yet, but is this going to go in front of the planning board and all the other boards after this is delineated?
From what I understand, it is not going to go in front of the planning.
Why not?
So historically, we haven't had public entities like our high school, our public schools, DPW lots. This federal area under the federal aviation is not. But I will say, and he's not going to like me calling him out here, but I did have that conversation with Aaron Henry, so that would definitely be something, again, not for here in this board, but happy to talk with you about that.
I understand that, but this is a big problem here, okay? And once again, okay, the town of Danvers is going to let us down, okay? There's too much going on over there, okay? I mean, I know it's not the time to talk, that's why I'm asking, okay? This is our format that we have to speak, okay?
Yeah.
And that's it. It's not good because, I mean, we have a lot of questions over there. I mean, we're talking about wetlands, okay? The de-ice vehicle, the de-icing planes over there at this point here, where is that stuff going? Okay, do we have catch basins to catch all this stuff, okay?
Yeah.
We got to know watershed, all that stuff there, okay? So there's a lot of questions that have to be asked. That's why. And if we're not going to be able to ask them if all we're doing is going through this. Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I would say, I think that's an opportunity to have an offline conversation of an overview picture of how is the town addressing the.
Town's always sneaky about this, okay? It's about time the town stands behind their residents, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I don't represent the town as a whole, but we're happy to
Wetlands here.
help you.
Understood.
Thank you.
I'll just add that what's on in front of us now is just to establish the wetland lines. If they then propose a project, that will come back to us at a later point, at which point that particular project can get commented on.
Thank you, Tom.
Is there any other public comment? Mr. Zerber, go ahead.
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but if I may, there was a question at the time when the original project was proposed of the distance from the delineated lines, how far away can the building be put in place? And I'm just wondering if that's any of your purview, or is that a building inspector purview?
No, that'll be up to us. We have the 35 and the 50-foot boundaries.
So now my question is, have the conditions or requirements for building close to the delineated lines changed in the last 6 years?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's what we're.
Yes.
Well,
gonna
that's,
try and get
Yes,
an
they've
answer
gotten
to.
more strict, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
they have.
Yeah.
they have changed. That's what I was told.
Yes, they've gotten more strict, as Member Curran said, and it's now it's more engineered, and there has to be an algorithm shown and calculations shown that prove certain things that weren't once requested.
Because at one time, it was like 30 feet or 50 feet away from the boundary line.
It was 25 and 50, and that was it. You just had to ask for a waiver if you wanted to work in that
Right.
area. Now there's a cap, a limit on how much you can alter in that area, the closer you get to the wetland.
What is the current distance from the wetlands to the foundation
Of the current building,
of any building that's...
well, I can only tell you the current building shown on the plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so the applicant you're more or less advocating that your plan from 2017 is sufficient.
Let's go back to the
So can you
mic.
get back to the, could you,
Peter, you can go back to the mic, please?
We've discussed this with the wetlands consultant that did it at the time. He thought that the line would be good. We've put it out there, but this is an opportunity to review the line and see if it's moved.
Sure.
Then we can get it out there with our consultant, the prior consultant, any consultants you want, and take a look and see. But that's the whole purpose of this, is to determine that.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to give you the option. We're going to want a peer review. So, I mean, do you want to pay for your own wetlands person to go out there and review it again, plus the peer review, or do you just want to pay for the peer review?
I mean, I can have my wetlands person review it. I have had one staff member take a look at it. I can do that. But, and if you'll accept that, that's fine,
Well,
but.
no, I think we're going
No,
to want to
we're
have a
gonna
peer
want a
review.
peer review.
So, I mean, go ahead and have them review it. That's your call, but we are, as a board, I think I'm speaking for the board. We're going to want to have a peer review just to go over those.
I understand that, and that's an opportunity for you to have another opinion. But the reason we want to get it determined is we know what the setback is. We want to bring forward a plan that's in compliance, and it's not determined whether there's one hangar or two hangars or what. The purpose of this is to be able to do the planning that's necessary to come back with a plan to you people. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Okay, so do we want to, we're going to vote on just authorizing a peer review then, right?
Yep.
Okay? Okay, if someone can make a motion to that effect, we will.
I'll make a motion that we engage a professional for a peer review relative to the lines that were established in 2017 for this abbreviated notice of delineation.
Before we vote on that, just quick question, Georgia, do we even need to vote on anything with no DEP number? Other than, I mean, we probably should authorize.
I would vote to continue, because we have opened the public hearing, but we can't make any votes because there's,
Can we vote on the peer review?
no, yes, you can vote on a consultant, absolutely, yep.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we authorize?
And that's
make a
my
vote?
motion, and I note that the applicant's agreeable as well, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we just need to vote to continue this hearing till, would this be, well, it's a month, right, until our next meeting?
Yeah, our next meeting's December 14th.
All right, so why don't we propose that we
Yeah.
continue today?
I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 191 Old Burley Street, no DEP file number, to our next meeting on December 14th.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Just before I leave, what is the procedure? Is Georgia going to get in touch with me and let me know
Yes, sir.
who she might suggest, and we pick one or something like that?
I think we-
So we pick, but I'll tell you the three that we'll ask. And it usually comes down to a matter of cost and familiarity with we don't always go with the cheapest or the most expensive. It's going to be a matter, and then if I ask three people and only one person answers me, that's the person that we go with. So, but I'll give you a call. We don't work tomorrow, but I can give you a call on Monday to get you. But we'll pick that person, and then from there, we'll schedule a site visit with you guys, our consultant, and the commission. Hopefully before the next hearing, considering we have a good amount of time.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Good to see you all again.
Yeah,
Thank
great,
you,
thank
Peter, good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, Joe Skomersky has logged on virtually for 107 Brad Street. If
Perfect.
you don't mind covering that item before we get to the next
So
one.
go ahead. So he's on here now?
Yeah, Joe, can you hear us? Your microphone's muted if you want to take it off. There he is.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
All right, we can hear you.
Good evening, members of the board. Joe Skomersky here from 107 Bradstreet Avenue in Danvers. I'm here to close out my permit for my garage that we built in 2021 and finished the landscaping, and the exterior has all been completed. So that's what I'm here for tonight, to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, and Georgia, you've been out to inspect the site?
Yes, I've been out to the site. Everything looks great.
Okay, perfect. Any questions, Michael?
No questions.
Jonathan?
No questions.
Ann, any questions?
No.
Okay, and Vanessa?
No.
Okay, if someone can make the motion, we will issue a certificate of compliance.
I'll make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 107 Brad Street Ave, DEP file number 14-1352.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And just thank you, Mr. Skomersky, for coming back in the timely manner. We always appreciate when applicants come back and close out their project within the 3 years. So, thank you.
Well, yep, thank you very much. You have a good night. Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you, Georgia, for everything.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We're all heading in that direction, right?
I know that.
Okay, next up is notice of intent for 107R Elliott Street, DEP file number 14-1406. The applicant is the Di Lorenzo Family Trust, and Jonathan will be recusing himself as he is in a butter. Why don't we just, Mr. Griffith, can just give us a quick overview of what we heard the last time and why we continued, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, good evening. Bob Griffin on behalf of Danvers Port Marina. And with me this evening is Dan Di Lorenzo and his son Joe Di Lorenzo. They're in the back of the room there, but they're obviously very familiar with the facility operations. We continued this item at the last hearing because some questions were raised as to if the facility was in compliance with their public access requirements and whether or not the proposed ramps would have any impact on those public access requirements. So independently, I think Georgia went through the old permits associated with the Danvers Port facilities. I went through the permits that I had access to with the old, back from 1989 to the present time. Mr. Di Lorenzo also went back through his records and checked through all the public access requirements. And I guess I would just summarize to say that I think that, you know, the public access requirements began with a special permit in 1989. There was an agreement between the town and Danvers Port, I think in 1990. Then there was a special permit modification in 2005 that addressed some signage. There was reconstruction of the pool and some landscaping in 2009 that made some minor revisions to the public access requirements, primarily associated with the posting of the certain hours. The hours, I think when we first started, or in 1989, it was something like 3 hours after sunset to 8 p.m. was the hours of public access. And so because that's sort of a little vague as to the start time each day, it was clarified in 2009 to be, I think, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. In the months of, if I got it right, June, July, August, and September. And so anyways, Mr. DiLorenzo confirmed that the facility is in compliance with all those requirements. The signage is up, the signage is correct. He wrote a brief letter or email to the board to that effect, and so I hope that closes out that particular question. Additionally, I wanted to note that, and I said this at the last meeting, I believe the ramps have no impact on public access, and they don't. The ramps are, along the shoreline. The public access areas are inland of the top of the bank, and they're actually shown on our Chapter 91 license. I think we had that exhibit up at one point during the last meeting, but the proposed ramps, if anything, make it easier to walk along the shoreline in regards to the Chapter 91 requirements about being able to access fish and fowl along, the lands of the Commonwealth. So, if anything, this proposed ramp project improves public access generally at the site and certainly has no impact on the town-specified public access requirements as embodied in those permits. So, with that, I'd be happy to address any questions.
I don't know if we have, I have no further questions from what we discussed at the previous meeting. Mike, do you have any questions?
So you're confident that this project does not interfere with the public enjoyment of the areas that were designated for public use?
No, it has no effect at all.
All right. I think that was the issue.
Okay.
Thank you. No,
Welcome.
nothing further.
Ann, do you have any questions?
No, we discussed the ramps at the last meeting, and that was what I was concerned with. So I'm fine with this.
Georgia, are you putting this picture?
Yes. This was submitted with the email from Mr. DiLorenzo.
Right.
I also went by the area this week, and that sign is still present with the open area. Of course, it's by the sign, we're past that date. There were some boats obviously there, but they are not there during those times.
So can I just ask staff, are these signs new or were they there right all along?
I'm assuming those came in 2009 when the dates and times changed.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, the signs have been there a long time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Vanessa, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Is there any public questions or comments?
Pete Clement, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 3. Is there a size of the area that was supposed to be in? Did they ever define that as far as how big of an area for public access was? I mean, was it a 10 by 10, area, or was it, like a quarter of an acre, or yeah.
Maybe
Through the board
Dan
to
can
you.
come up and respond.
Somewhere, I believe that, way back in that time, I read that there was an official as far as how big of an area there was.
Hi, Dan DiLorenzo from Danvers Port Marina. There are plans that were approved by the zoning board that do show the areas outlined on the plans. As far as the exact square footage, I don't know off the top of my head, but they are outlined on the plan. And if you look at the plan that we, our marina license, those same areas are outlined on the plan. So I don't know the exact square footage, but they're shown on the plan that we have here
Do you have an
tonight.
estimate on that, Danny?
I don't.
No.
I really don't. I'd have to look at it as far as
As
square feet.
big as
but
this room?
One area is probably twice as big as this room.
Uh-huh,
This area here,
uh-huh.
and then this is all along the waterfront
Yeah.
here. It's long, it's probably half the size of this room width-wise, but twice as long.
Well, that gives some perspective.
Yeah.
And what's there? Are there benches there?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a few benches, picnic tables.
Thank you.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Mr. Clement?
Yes, that does it. Thank you.
Is there any other comment, questions from the public? Hearing none, okay. I mean, in my opinion, if anyone differs from my opinion, I think this project is sound. I think we should move ahead with it.
Order of conditions.
So that being said, the first issue that we have to deal with is the project does require a waiver because there will be some work done within the 35 and 50-foot.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, do we have to vote to close the public hearing first?
Yeah, we will, but so I'm just saying we have to vote on
Okay.
a waiver.
Right.
Okay. Just one quick question before we get to that. There's going to be some work done within our restricted areas, so is your erosion control highlighted on your plans?
So,
Apologies.
there's really limited work at the walkway, so we're sort of making a connection to an existing concrete walk. We're sort of screwing in this new concrete platform to the walkway. So I don't think we're doing a whole lot of excavation on the shoreline, but we'll certainly, put silt fence or hay bales or something like that around any excavations that are necessary as part of the work.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, if someone can make a motion, we would close the public hearing for our first order of business.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for 107R Elliott Street, DEP file number 14-1406.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, the project does require a waiver because there is some work being done within the 35 and 50-foot zones. So if someone can make a motion to authorize that waiver?
I'll make a motion that we grant a waiver to the applicant to allow work within the 3550 based on the representation that the impact does not exceed 60 square feet, well under the permittable 10%. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now our next order of business is to issue an order of conditions. So someone can make a motion to that
All right.
effect?
I'll make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 107R Elliott Street, DEP file number 14-1406, to go ahead with the work proposed for the ramps and docks, gangways, and that said work have the following conditions. That a slow start be used when driving piles to reduce turbidity and prevent startling of fish away from the site. Because you mentioned excavation, I would also add that, that erosion controls be in place wherever you require to excavate, whether it be sock, hay bales, whatever is most appropriate. That vibratory driving, not impact driving or jetting, must be used to minimize noise and turbidity. So that's the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all very much, and good night.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, the next order of business is a public hearing for the amendments to the wetlands bylaw regulations. Georgia, do you have a quick overview to present to us?
Yeah, I'm
Just
gonna,
one small little item. at the
Exactly.
Last meeting that we,
so I'm just gonna share that sentence that we added.
So does,
And I had originally put some language, when I sent the memo out, the language was confusing. It was actually doing the opposite of what it served. So Vanessa so politely asked me to maybe tweak that a bit. So I did. We did that today. Thank you, Vanessa. I'm going to try to zoom in here. Hold on. Yeah. Bye. All right, give this a second. All right, so what this basically said, float blocks made of expanded polystyrene foam must be completely encased and/or wrapped so as to prevent the leaching of non-natural material into the waterway. So that basically says the foam pieces, that nice long word in there, can't just be exposed. They need to be wrapped in some sort. What I put in my memo was I talked to the harbor master and he said, oh yeah, that's standard. No one ever uses those anymore. But I don't think there's any harm in adding it to the bylaw, because we actually did see one property this summer that put out some floats illegally that had exposed foam. So that's definitely, I think, something that if we have it in the bylaw, we can cite it easier as a violation too. So that's really everything we taught. I think this is probably our 4th hearing on these. Again, all the things that have been proposed to be added, 90% of them are what the harbor master requires in his standard conditions. So we've now just formally adopted into our regulations. Yeah.
This has all been reviewed by Chris Sanborn?
Yeah, Chris Sanborn and town council. So we had a legal review and then also Chris's expert
Harbor
review.
master review?
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, any members of the board have any questions? Mike?
And the river committee too. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, don't forget them.
No.
No, I don't have any questions. I think you did a good job.
Thank you, Mike.
And any further questions?
No, I've noted everything that was changed, and I would have no questions.
Has Vanessa gone to any more conferences to get more?
No, not in the last 2 weeks, so no, I think it looks great.
Mark has a question, I think.
Okay, thanks. Sir?
Mark Zubrick again. The reason I stand before you is ask you the question is, as a result of these changes that have been approved over the 4 meetings, are there any unintended consequences to the general public? Because I'm concerned that, we make these regulations and make these laws and make them all comply with somebody else's issues. What are the residents going to have as an impact of this particular piece? And this is a small piece of the regulations.
Yeah, I would say, again, 90% of what we're adopting, which again is probably only 20% of, maybe even 10% of the whole regulations. This is a small blip.
Right.
Blip of that, it's probably 2 pages. Those standards, Chris Sanborn has been requiring stringently for the past 2.5 years. And so we've been able to see developments occur with those residents and the public navigating around those piers that have been created. And we haven't received any substantial negative feedback, or if anything, I would say these are eliminating the negative consequences we've been seeing from a failing bylaw over time. People putting their piers crooked, going over property lines, going too long, impacting the public channel. This serves to prevent those negative externalities that weren't considered before.
Okay, well, the reason I come before you is that every time we change regulations, and you're in charge of the regulations, there are unintended consequences that happen. Mm-hmm. And they don't happen on day one, they happen a year from now. And I'm just wondering, have we looked at that? Thank you.
But just a quick answer to that question is, this proposal was floated by the, pardon the pun, the River Committee, which is supposedly, advocates of the river down there. And they were supportive of the whole
Yes.
change.
Mr. Chair, I thought of a question I wanted to pose to staff. And I've been doing this a long time, deeds, titles. I've never had to do a deed where there was a peer involved. Do you know if transfers of these properties contain language about the existing piers because they're structures? I mean,
There are,
just general, A conveys to B the land located together with all structures. So there's no specific, also including the pier located at?
I've never seen and including the pier
And
at.
I haven't, and then I'm wondering why, and that, yeah, I probably should have brought this up ahead.
Yeah.
But now I'm wondering if we're going to be doing restrictive covenants on deeds, I mean, couldn't they just do a party agreement rather than that type of thing that may be a cloud on
For
title?
shared piers, you mean?
With regard to the shared piers,
Yeah, yes. I think for the suggestion in having it included on the deed of saying, hey, and also there's tied interest between these two parties recorded at this book and pay, just having it in the title, the chain of title is important, because in 30, 40 years, that could be forgotten about if it's
So for
not.
the conveyance, 20, 30 years later, would also have to say subject to.
Exactly. But if it's just a license that happens to also be, or an agreement that's tied to the chain of title, but with a special permit, it's mixed into that, muddled in, it's lost over time.
Yeah, so now I'm thinking, so down the road, the parties decide, this doesn't work out, we don't want this restriction anymore.
They would have to get rid of the pier or take that agreement where one property is now completely taking over ownership. They would have to amend the license, change that agreement, change the deed. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you need to put it in a deed or just some sort of agreement between the parties and maybe record the agreement.
Do you want to look at that further? We could.
Well, is that something we could just run
Yeah.
by council?
It's all been reviewed by the town council. So
Well,
It has.
Yeah.
And I will say the language we have for shared piers, that's what we adopted from two or three other communities. They had that language. And I think we kept it broad enough. Let me, I think we put that first. So we say shared piers require recorded deed restrictions on each owner's lot prohibiting another pier on that owner's lot, and deeded easements granting each other access to the shared pier. So, if I was someone that had a shared pier, I'd want, of course, deeded access across someone's property. So long as the shared pier exists. So that basically says as long as the structure's there and working and viable, then both those properties can't build another one. So you can't have two, and then also you need to give access.
so then that would be like an easement across someone else's property to get that pier.
Yeah,
So it just gets a little intricate.
it does, and I think that's a good point. That is a good example of what the Mr. Zuber's public comment was, is this a
Unintended.
negative?
When someone later says, I don't want to do this anymore, how do I undo these easements and
Yeah.
restrictions?
You don't.
Well, in that case, I don't know if that's an issue with the bylaw. I think that's an issue with the person that made that decision, them not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Property owners.
but if someone came to us and said, hey, this is really restrictive on us, it's impossible to get a deed restriction and get the property, this doesn't work for us, we both want it, but this process you laid out doesn't work, then that's the time to,
And I don't want this guy walking across my yard anymore to.
well, then I say, okay, sorry, you can't share your pier anymore. But if there's a
But I don't
problem
know,
with the
you don't think that needs
process,
further,
that's up to, I'm comfortable and confident with that.
all right.
I would also unfortunately say, and not that this matters, but the odds of someone coming in with a shared pier are few and far between. But I will also say, fortunately, this process, if someone came in and said, hey, we really want to do the shared pier, but the way you've laid it out, we've explored doing it, it's really restrictive.
It is.
Changing that requires a posting in the legal ad, one legal ad in a public hearing.
So we could change it down the road.
If we really find that the evidence is there to say, okay, maybe this is unruly and restrictive, it's something the commission should consider changing right away. I don't see any issue with that.
Yeah, it might affect sellability of the property down the road, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
If there is a shared pier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any existing shared piers?
we did have one shared pier on Tibbetts Ave between 17 and 19. It actually was great feedback because there was a gentleman on the river committee that lived there, and he was someone that was one of the co-owners of the shared pier. And he said you need to be friendly with the person that you're sharing the pier. So it sounded like there were some non-regulatory issues. And then getting umbrella insurance on the property was also tough. So I think there may be roadblocks aside from our bylaw that may prevent people from doing it anyway. But if they get over those hurdles, I think this would be the easier
The
paper
reason I
part.
brought it up, Georgia, is I was saying, there are agreements that can be drawn between abutting landowners for a number of things, whether it's walls or
Yep.
other projects.
Yeah.
Well, it would be easier later to dissolve an agreement, and
Yeah.
is not so restrictive on the property itself. It's just a party agreement.
Have you seen an agreement for easements?
For easements?
Yeah.
Well, it would be, again, it would reference the parcels. It would be an agreement, so the deed might say, see agreement, recorded, registry,
Okay.
book and page. But I mean, if you ran it by council and they like it, and,
Well, I'm happy, I mean, we can continue this, and I can sit down with you, and we could try to write something up that makes more sense. I'm happy to do that, too.
Do you think
You
that's
mind?
necessary, Mike?
I mean, like I've said, there's no rushing
well, aren't we
this.
trying to attract shared peers?
We are, yeah, absolutely. And if you
And
think
this
that's
won't.
something that would, yeah. So I'm happy to, definitely. Yeah,
Do you mind?
No.
No.
Let's get it done right.
yeah. And that's good. That gives us a month, and then we can work on something. I can send it to Chris, send it to you guys, and see if that's better.
And town council.
Yep, in council.
Georgia, you have a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Other towns on the riverbanks have shared piers regulations in place?
Towns on rivers with tidal influence having shared piers, I could find. There was one in the Cape.
Just checking, just
No,
checking.
but, I mean, Salisbury, there was some other areas that had, tidal influence or, more kettlebell areas, bay areas, looking at those, that it was helpful. And there was a gentleman on the river committee that had a friend up in Salisbury that had a new subdivision that had about 7 homes that had one shared pier was the size of what we see for our one single-family homes. So he put me in touch with them, and I looked up their deeds to see how they have the agreement. But they're an HOA, so it's part of the master condo deed.
Master deed,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
bylaws.
Yeah.
We have the condos at the end of Water Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they technically, so that was, if everyone recall, that was a marina before it was those condos. So that Chapter 91 license kind of lapsed over and evolved into having those slips for those private residents.
I would consider that a shared pier, right?
Exactly. But we also, if we think about this bylaw, again, it can be, the bylaw can be changed at town meeting, but the regs, if you put it 20, 30, 40 years down the line, I mean, the condos on McDougal Ave could be sold and demolished, and now that's another set of 4 condos. So that's another shared pier scenario. Or there could be some redevelopment somewhere that now becoming condos or higher end, nice single-family homes. This is where the shared pier could become attractive, so. It may not be now, it could be down the line. We see this being more.
Okay, so Mike, just to summarize what you're asking Georgia to find out.
Whether there's a less restrictive way to accomplish this, so that people would want to maybe do a shared pier without worrying about the effect on their title or reselling their
yeah.
property, that sort of thing.
Okay. Does that,
Yeah, definitely. And I could also, that was either Barnstable or Brewster, one of the Cape towns. I could even call their Concom agent and say, hey, do you have any properties that have implemented your shared peer bylaw? Is it working for them? Do they? Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank you,
Is there any
Georgia.
other, before we continue the public hearing, is there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, someone can make a motion, we'll continue, or, till the next meeting should be plenty of time, right?
Yeah, definitely, December 14th.
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing on the amendments for the wetland bylaw regulations to our next meeting on December 14th.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, old
The
and new
minutes.
business, meeting minutes.
I must have really confused you guys this week.
All right, so, George
All right,
and I
so-
talked earlier this week, on the agenda, it's asking for approval for 2 sets of minutes, so we did approve the minutes for the 9/14 meeting.
You already did.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
So if you read them twice, you got brownie points.
No, it wasn't a whole lot to read.
But the 824, I did need to revise. But Vanessa had some good things that should have been added, just more discussion. And then it said Anne
Right.
wasn't either
I was
missing nor
invisible,
present.
right.
She was just floating. So she was there. She had good feedback. I added her name.
Okay,
Yeah.
so someone can make, is that satisfactory?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone can make a motion, we'll accept those minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for our August 24th, 2023 meeting.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Georgia, is there any other older new business?
No, that's all.
That's
Okay,
all,
and
folks.
We don't have, need a meeting right after Thanksgiving.
No, so have a good Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll
All right.
see you in December.
I'm
we-
getting hungry already.
Wow.
Our snow
That's
boots
not
on.
up on
What's
us
the December schedule?
I know.
It's actually not too
Going
bad.
out
The
to
December
Chicago,
schedule is not,
having an early
right now it's
Thanksgiving.
1:50.
Yeah, next
Do we have
week.
2 meetings or
Oh,
one?
we do. We have
We're
two
having it
meetings.
on the
Make a
28th.
motion, we adjourn the meeting?
Second
good
the
idea.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night.